Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, and thanks for joining us tonight. As always, a lot to get into. We'll talk about the Penguins. Matt Murray, what's his short-term future for the Penguins? You know, there's an expansion draft coming up, and Tristan Jarry has essentially taken his job. We'll get into that. We'll talk about the City game. It had some interest this week. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers, who took a step back and now no longer control their playoff destiny. And here to debate that is your panel. Left to right, we have Colin Dunlap, host of the Fan Morning Show on 93.7 The Fan. Over to the left in the middle, it's Will Graves, the outstanding journalist with the Associated Press. And to the right is Tim Benz, who hosts the Steelers pregame show on DVE as well as TribLive.com. So we'll get right into this now. Gentlemen, first of all, the Steelers had a chance to win this game and, you know, move ahead, but they still have to worry about next week. But now it's not in their control. So, Colin, I want to ask you about this.
Right.
The quarterback situation seems very much up in the air. Mason Rudolph looked like he had come in. He was going to maybe lead them to a win. He gets hurt. He may not be available. What do you do at quarterback, and does Paxton Lynch play a role in next week at all?
I don't think he starts, but if Mason Rudolph can't go, Paxton Lynch has to dress. I'm convinced they win that football game today if Mason Rudolph stays healthy, but he didn't. What we found out, I think, though, Bob, is much bigger form. The Steelers have a gigantic backup quarterback problem. There was going to be a drop-off, and you guys all know it was going to be precipitous if Ben didn't play. But Mason Rudolph has not performed up to any level at which that matched his draft stock, or at least the Steelers had him. And Duck just fell back down to earth. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback, I don't think. They need to reevaluate in totality what's happening with the backup quarterback situation.
Based on how unwilling Mike Tomlin was to praise Devlin Hodges, even when Hodges was playing well, that connotes to me that he had less faith in Hodges than just about anybody, and he still had to put him out there and have him start. So my inclination is to believe, and behind him, he had Paxton Lynch, who never even wanted to dress. So he has even less faith in Paxton Lynch. So I think what will happen is Devlin Hodges will start, and Paxton Lynch will be ready to come in on as short of a leash as there was on Duck this week for Mason Rudolph.
It sounds like, I feel bad, like every time if we start trashing Duck now, it's sort of like going after Baby Yoda a little bit, right? I mean, like, there's this cute little feel-good story, and look, Duck is a good guy, but he has shown he has killed them. He killed them last week. He killed them in the first half today. But I do think you cannot start Paxton Lynch in the most important game of your season. You can't.
No, you can't.
I mean, I don't know if Pomp. I don't know if you got any calls on that after the.
Oh, yeah, we do. I mean, if he's a #1 pick. Therefore, the Denver Broncos many
if he
years
would
ago,
be,
so
I don't know. I look at him like Duck. I mean, if he would, there's a reason the Steelers cut him at the end of camp. There's a reason Paxton Lynch was looking for a job. It's not because these guys are diamonds in the rough. It's that they don't quite have it to be successful at this level.
Yeah, and Will, like I said, there's a reason why he hasn't been dressing too. Right. Even though Mike Tomlin has said repeatedly that the entire game plan, to your point, has been Duck, just don't kill us. That's how afraid he has been to use Hodges, and he still hasn't wanted to put Lynch in front of him. So my inclination is to believe that they probably want to go back to Hodges again. It wants a strong word.
I don't think they want to. I think
have to.
It's necessitated by the injury.
Pretty amazing, and you really do appreciate Ben Roethlisberger when you look at what's happened. One offensive touchdown in like 8 weeks in a row. There was a time when Roethlisberger threw 6 in a game, back-to-back weeks, and now that seems such a distant memory. All right, let's talk about the running back, because that was another situation. I think if James Conner would have been healthy, Tim Benz all season long, and capable of what he's doing, then you don't have a problem. Since he hasn't been, you do have a problem. Once again, 5 dressed. Once again, it was not a factor in the game, and the offensive line has something to do with that. What's your take on the running back by committee moving forward?
Yeah, you need a good committee if you don't have one real good running back you can lean on. And the committee isn't all that good, and their #1 right now isn't all that good because he's so rarely available. After James Conner today, I believe if you averaged up all the other running backs, I think it came out to like 2.6 yards per carry. These guys, based on what we've been told repeatedly, aren't particularly adept at hitting the right hole when it's there, and the holes just haven't been there. Of all the bad plays that went awry, I mean, obviously the most damaging one was Finney stepping on Mason Rudolph, which resulted in injury eventually. But I thought the second most embarrassing play beyond that today was when they lined up, I believe, with 14 men at the line of scrimmage. I think they had Zach Banner, 2 tight ends. They tried to run, and they still lost yardage, which is humiliating. and no one helped the quarterbacks. The offensive line didn't help, the running backs didn't help, and there were drops galore. So for as bad as the quarterbacks were, there was a lot of other issues with the offense.
Tim, if you went into the season, the two questions around James Conner were, can he hold on to the balls, he show better ball security, and can he stay healthy? He didn't answer either one of them this year. It actually took a step backwards. If at the very least it stayed kind of neutral and didn't move. But he's not going to be a feature back moving forward. I don't know if how you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you say, that's our guy moving forward in a small window or in a big window. There's just no way you can do it.
I mean, if you look at it, we're 3 years into his career now, and he had one pretty good 8-game stretch that got him to the Pro Bowl, and that's it. I mean, his best game of the year this year was against the Dolphins. He hurts his shoulder at the end of it and has not been the same since. I mean, and it's a guy who's, look, he's going to enter in the final year of his contract. The Steelers like to negotiate with their core guys at this point, and you got to wonder what James thinks his value is and what the Steelers think his value is in the spring is going to be very interesting to watch.
All right, let's play that out. And I'll ask you guys, if you were in charge of this, what would you do? Do you go and sign him long-term, or do you start a search for another, or do you just go by committee? Other teams have done it. You may have to upgrade your committee.
I go by committee. Benny Snell is here. Kareth White is here. James Conner is here. The other Edmonds is here. And Jalen Samuels is here. You could cobble together a running game, one would hope, out of all those guys, but I definitely don't extend him contract-wise.
You do not extend him because he's going to cost a lot. You have a lot of other needs that you need to address. I don't extend him, and if he does burn you and have a great year, fine. Other teams, they let Le'Veon Bell go. You can let James Conner go.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not a guy that's worth the money that Le'Veon was scheduled to make. So I just think he hasn't shown the consistency. He hasn't shown. He's trying, and this isn't a lack of effort. But this guy, for some reason, he breaks. He's made of glass sometimes, it feels like, and that's not something you can make your feature back long term.
We saw another guy return from injury. That would be Juju Smith-Schuster, and that also leads to a discussion down the road about his value and how much he might want versus what the team is willing to offer. But we got in a little discussion about Juju's. Listen, he's been injured. I still think he's having problems with that injury. But Will, at the end of the game, he was thrown a ball. It was more just a last-ditch attempt, but I thought he should have made the play. And to me, I look at that as a drop, even though he didn't touch it. Did you agree with that?
I mean, you're sort of judging him at 2018 Juju Smith-Schuster levels there, right? I mean,
yeah, but shouldn't he make a play?
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen him in the locker room. You guys have seen him in the locker room. He is not even. I don't think he's even close to 100%. So I mean, at 65%, do I expect him to make that play? No, I don't.
Well, I don't expect him to make that play. I expect Antonio Brown to make that play. I expect the number one receiver to make that play, but that's not what he is. And Pomp, I'll disagree a little bit about that specific play for how much you want to put the weight of the game on him. I will put more blame on him for a previous drop earlier in the game. And, you know, here's a guy who goes everywhere with a camera crew around him, but there were a dozen cameras at that field today, and they couldn't find him because he wasn't doing anything. So I think I put more of a blame on him for being absent in every other part of that game.
Can we relax, though, with the camera stuff? Like, that's become a personal vendetta in this town, and it's ridiculous. He's not the first athlete that's building a brand. He's not going to be the last athlete that's building a brand. And I just don't understand why it's gone so south so quick that people want to attack this guy for furthering what he is.
Because I think, Colin, the reason for that is when he does all that stuff, it almost advances himself as a sacred cow where you can't be criticized for what you do on the field.
I'll tell you this. Next time he goes to a hospital, you have those people at the hospital tell them they don't want that camera crew there.
Okay, hospitals are fine.
They're not going to accept his
hospitals
donation
are
or his
fine.
time.
What about dancing at State College? Like, you know, what about all that stuff?
There's a big
what
divide,
about, what about putting your
allowed to be
speeding
22
Lamborghini up on
sometimes,
it?
right?
No, wait a minute. I think there's a big divide between being healthy enough to play in the NFL and being healthy enough to walk around. And there's a big span on the continuum.
I'm not associating it with injury.
And just because people think that he was healthy enough to walk around and go to a party or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean he could expedite being back in the NFL.
Look at me turns into, we can talk about you when you don't play well. So he's got to be ready.
No, it's one fat guy who's on the radio with a vendetta.
I'm waiting for you to drop a that's what it's all about.
That's what it is.
Colin,
well, I know what it's all about.
I'm not him, and I also think that it's a little much. It's gotten a little much for a guy who hasn't been producing.
We have to go to a commercial break, and it just get heated. We'll carry that over to the next topic. But if you would like to enjoy the game from the comfort of your couch, I know a lot of you do, well, you're going to love this because with Expressway at Cochran.com, you can buy a car from your couch. It's easy. Expressway lets you complete some, most, or all of the buying process online and spend less time or no time at all in the showroom. And that's right, they even offer home delivery at no extra charge. Buy a car your way with Expressway at Cochran.com. More Steeler Talk next. The number one Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by number one Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.